Taigu Ryokan 1758–1831 was a Japanese Zen Buddhist monk and poet of the Edo period, known for his unconventional lifestyle and unadorned, deeply personal poetry. He lived as a hermit for much of his life, residing in a small hut near a mountain temple and relying on the generosity of others. Ryokan was born in a port and fishing village in Japan, and his father was the headman in the shogun administration of the village. His childhood name was Izo. Ryokan had a deep spiritual practice, but it was hidden by an also deep simplicity, so it was very easy to miss seeing the reality he embodied. Ryokan was not his family name. When he was ordained, he took the name Taigu Ryokan. Taigu means great fool, and this was a very acute designation. He loved playing the fool. He preferred playing games with children rather than sitting in some dignified spiritual role. He poked fun at all pretensions, but mostly he poked fun at himself, at this image of a spiritual man, a monk, etc. The name Taigu, or Great Fool, bestowed upon such an elevated Zen master might seem puzzling or paradoxical. To the untrained mind, the word fool denotes someone unwise or silly. However, within Zen tradition, the fool transcends such conventional meanings. Historically, jesters and fools were not merely entertainers, they spoke inconvenient truths, often offering piercing wisdom cloaked in humor. Shakespeare's fools, for example, held up mirrors to kings and queens during their critical moments. Similarly, Zen great fools like Taigu embodied supernatural wisdom, profound simplicity, and an aversion to cultural elitism. Ryokan could have followed his father into this leadership role, but after studying Chinese and Japanese literature and calligraphy, he ran away and joined a Zen monastery of the Soto school. There he was a diligent monk for over 10 years. At age 33, he left with the blessings of his teacher and became a wanderer and beggar. Zen masters who earned this title were often unconventional in their lifestyle. Figures like Taigu and Ryokan lived simple, pure, and selfless lives, communicating with nature and refusing to conform to social expectations. They were kind, generous, and profoundly compassionate. It was not uncommon for such masters to forget to beg for food because they were preoccupied with playing with children or attending to nature. The great fool thus reflects a state of mind that transforms suffering into freedom, a unique path to enlightenment that avoids worldly attachments and ego. At about age 39, he settled down as a hermit in a thatched roof hut at the foot of the mountain, about 12 miles from his home village. Here he lived the simplest kind of life. My hut lies in the middle of a dense forest. Every year the green ivy grows longer. No news of the affairs of men. Only the occasional song of a woodcutter. The sun shines and I'm in my robe. And facing the moon, I read holy texts aloud to myself. Undisturbed by the affairs of the world, I live at ease. Let me drop a word of advice for believers of my faith. To enjoy life's immensity, you do not need many things. One begging bowl holds the rice of 1,000 homes. A thin robe, and my whole body feels light. Having eaten my fill, what's left for me to do? Grow old in the great peace, soaring calm and free. Too lazy to be ambitious. I let the world take care of itself. 10 days' worth of rice in my bag. A bundle of twigs by the fireplace. Why chatter about delusion and enlightenment? Listening to the night rain on my roof. I sit comfortably, with both legs stretched out. The following anecdotes typify Tiger's life and character, revealing his unconventional wisdom, eccentric mannerisms, and profound insight. Number 1. One of Ryokan's contemporaries said this about him. Ryokan stayed with us for a couple of days. A peaceful atmosphere filled our house, and everyone became harmonious. The atmosphere remained for some days even after he left. As soon as I started talking with him, I realized that my heart had become pure. He did not explain Zen or other Buddhist scriptures, nor did he encourage wholesome actions. He would burn firewood in the kitchen or sit in meditation in our living room. He did not talk about literature or ethics. He was indescribably relaxed. He taught others only by his presence. Number 2. One evening a thief visited Ryokan's hut at the base of the mountain only to discover there was nothing to steal. Ryokan returned and caught him. "You have come a long way to visit me," he told the prowler, "and you should not return empty-handed. Please take my clothes as a gift." The thief was bewildered. He took the clothes and slunk away. Ryokan sat naked, watching the moon. "Poor fellow," he mused, "I wish I could have given him this beautiful moon." Number 3. According to the Art Research Center, Ritsumeikan University of Kyoto, Japan, this is a temari ball, owned by Buddhist monk Ryokan. It is said that, in the late Edo period, Zen priest Ryokan always had a temari in his pocket so that he would be ready at any time to play ball with children. Number 4. Returning to my native village after many years' absence. I put up at a country inn. One robe, one bowl is all I have. Now I take my wooden begging bowl and wander carefree through town. The moment the children see me, they scamper off gleefully to bring their friends. They're waiting for me at the temple gate, tugging from all sides so I can barely walk. I leave my bowl on a white rock, hang my pilgrim's bag on a pine tree branch. First we duel with blades of grass. Then we play ball. While I bounce the ball, they sing the song. Then I sing the song and they bounce the ball. Caught up in the excitement of the game, we forget completely about the time. Passers-by turn and question me. Why are you carrying on like this? I just shake my head without answering. Even if I were able to say something, how could I explain? Do you really want to know the meaning of it all? This is it. This is it. At crossroads and through streets I begged all day. My wandering steps have led me to a village shrine. Children come around me, whispering one to another. The silly priest of last year has returned to play. Number 5. In today's terms, Ryokan was a societal dropout. Mostly he lived as a hermit and a beggar. One biographical note summarizes his life. He was never head of a monastery or temple. He liked playing with children. He had no Dharma air. Even so, people recognized the depth of his realization, and he was sought out by people of all walks of life for the teaching to be experienced in just being around him. The full thing in Ryokan's case was not artificial or put on, but came from deep within his own realization and gently and tenderly cut off that ego self-drive for identity. At a tea ceremony, a very solemn ritual, Ryokan picked snot out of his nose and indiscreetly tried to set it on the right side of his seat. The guest on his right pulled his sleeve and cautioned him not to do that. Ryokan then tried to set it on his left, and the guest on the left side pulled his sleeve. Having no place to put his snot, he put it back into his nose. Translated by K. Tanahashi. Number 6. Ryokan was by nature exceedingly dull and careless, wholly incapable of such things as straightening his garments when meeting others. That's why, it said, the local people nicknamed him the headman's lantern in broad daylight. This happened when Master Ryokan was 6 or 7. One day the master slept late and was scolded by his father. The master looked up and stared at his father intently, and his father told him, "Anyone who glares at his father like that will surely turn into a flounder." Hearing this, the master fled suddenly from the house, and by nightfall still had not returned. Worried, the whole household searched everywhere for him, but the master was loitering, dejected, on a cliff by the ocean. When the searchers finally found the master, they shouted at him, "What are you doing here?" The master is said to have asked them, "Haven't I turned into a..." Number 7. This happened at the Seiba ferry crossing in Jizodo. A notorious ferryman, an outlaw, plied his trade there. Knowing Master Ryokan to be gentle, meek, and inoffensive, the ferryman took him aboard. But once he had left the shore behind, the ferryman deliberately rocked the boat, tumbling the master into the water. Then, seeing the master on the verge of drowning, the boatman became alarmed and rushed to his aid, plucking him from the water. Thereupon, the master, believing the boatman had saved his life, thanked him profusely for his act of selfless kindness. Number 8. On one occasion when Master Ryokan was out begging, he approached a home. It happened that an object had recently gone missing at this house, and the householder, suspecting the master of the theft, bound him hand and foot. The master only hung his head in silence. Just then, an acquaintance of the master's happened by and was able to have him released. "Why didn't you tell them you were innocent?" he berated the master. Seemingly lost in thought, the master replied, "Even if I'd explained, I wouldn't have been let off. Best not to make any explanations and just hope for the best." Number 9. At age 19, on the pretext of poor health, the master resigned from all his duties. One day, he accompanied his friends to a brothel, where they became boisterously drunk, sang, shouted, and dropped 100 gold coins on the spot. Thereupon the master shaved his head and gave himself the Buddhist name Ryokan. He traveled to Kyoto, where he remained for 3 or 4 years before returning home, erecting a small hermitage, and settling among the hills of Nagaoka, drifting about at his leisure. Number 10. Then there is also this very human and very tender aspect to Ryokan's life. At the age of 69 he falls in love with a young Buddhist nun, Tishin, who was about 28. She also was a poet, and they exchanged some very moving love poems. They saw each other only a few times over the next few years, but the intensity of the love poems shows not only a depth of feeling but also a true communion. When Ryokan was dying, she rushed to his side and held him in her arms as he died. It was Tishin who saved many of Ryokan's poems and calligraphy that we have today. Here are a few excerpts from Ryokan poems. Keep your heart clear and transparent, and you will never be bound. A single disturbed thought creates 10,000 distractions. Hail to the never-despising Bodhisattva. In heaven and earth, he stands alone. A real monk needs only one thing: a heart like never-despising Buddha. I sat facing you for hours, but you didn't speak. Then I finally understood the unspoken meaning. I have nothing to report, my friends. If you want to find the meaning, stop chasing after so many things. This is an old truth. Don't think it was discovered recently. I want this, I want that. Is nothing but foolishness. I'll tell you a secret. All things are impermanent. Now comes one of Ryokan's most subtle and most profound poems. Who calls my poems poems? My poems are not poems. Only when you know my poems are not poems. Can we together speak about poems? Thanks for your patience. I hope you like this video. Please subscribe to my channel. Raj Rishi.